Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley.
And hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh man, loaded question for sure. You and I were just talking about how Aries season is over. We've just entered Taurus season, and man, did I get my ass kicked. I always look forward to Aries season because it's my season, and I'm always like, yeah, fresh new start. It's going to be great. And it was one of the toughest seasons of my journey so far. It's almost like everything's accelerated right now, right? Energetically. And many of us are being asked to step up to the plate and really face ourselves. And I feel like for me personally, and I'm seeing it in so many people around me and through the internet, we are being smacked over and over again. And not in, our ego loves to look at it as like, this is so bad, this is awful. But it's like, it's just an invitation for us to grow, to elevate, to evolve, and get to the next place where we need to get to do what we're here to do. But that does not mean that it is not extremely difficult. And yeah, I've been served on my ass many times this past month and a half for sure.
Yeah, me too with this. All of April, we should be in May now. This will come out probably May 4th. So May the 4th be with you. And it was a rough month. It felt like every time that I was coming up for air, the universe just had me dunking straight back down, straight back into the deep end for more work. And it's been challenging, been really difficult. And for me, I'm finally starting to see a little light at the end of the tunnel and feeling more connected to myself as we go through this healing journey. We do peel back layers. And this last couple months has been, March and April for me, has been a really big peeling back of another layer and getting into some really deep work. And at first it was great because I was going in and I was doing all the deep work. But then what I was starting to be challenged with was not always being codependent and looking at you to share. I run this oversharing program to be able to do this work on my own. And what this started out in, it started out as like me not sharing because you were moving through something so much. And I could feel that you just didn't have the capacity for me to show up the way that I'd been showing up for our entire relationship. And thank you for all the times that you've been so open and able to just listen and be present with me and allow me to move through and process what it is that I'm dealing with. But it came to a point where you were now full of your own stuff. And then it was reflecting back to me, this part of me that was still codependent and in need to share what it is that I was moving through in order to process and be okay. So I had to start, this past couple months, I had to start really trying to do this work fully on my own without the need to share what it is, to express myself all the time. Now, I'm not saying that it's unhealthy to share or express with your partner, but quite clearly here, what was happening between us was I was doing it from a place of need. I needed to share in order to process, or it wouldn't have caused such a disturbance for me as I'm moving through this period. And so I started to just try and be okay. And I would be like, okay, I've got to alchemize and do the dishes. And there is a layer to that. There is a part of that that's true. Like, we do need to be able to, as we move through this elevation, this ascension process, be able to actually alchemize our feelings and our pain and our energy as we're moving through life. We don't always want to have to stop and find isolation to be able to connect to our power. We want to be able to do it as we're having conversations with people on the move. And that's where I thought I was. But then I was stuck in this trying to do it instead of just doing it. I was trying to be okay instead of just being okay. And that was a big lesson. It was multiple programs playing out at the same time and me trying to be okay with it instead of just taking the time to be okay and process what's coming up. And then when I felt like I needed to share, being okay with that too, like being okay within myself that I don't have to constantly share things with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been interesting to observe myself when you do share, like, especially in this last season, because every time I've been so pummeled and I've been so, what I feel, just beaten to the ground. So every time you were sharing, like, I wanted to show up so fully, but I could also feel how exhausted I was and how drained I was. And all I could do literally was just to listen. Like, I couldn't even like help you really go deeper into anything. I was like, my tank is so full right now. There's not even like spare. There's not even like a corner where I can give you. And it's been one of the biggest ass kickers of my journey so far. I talk about this a lot, obviously, but I just feel like the antidepressants really just put this nice little lid on everything. And now that it's exploded, the lid's off. I've also been trying to be in deep acceptance of my journey, and the trying to be in deep acceptance of my journey is actually not allowing me to surrender to everything. And my programs are fighting. My programs fight me every single day as soon as I wake up in the mornings. And I have been shown so much in the past few weeks of where I'm still extremely powerless, where I still don't take responsibility over myself, where I'm not showing up as a leader for myself, where I'm still very weak. And it's like when someone throws a pie in your face, but in the pie, there's like needles.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like over and over and over and over again, which has been very humbling to say the least, but it's been a lot. And so I'm just learning how to take it moment by moment, because I definitely do run a program of overwhelm. Like, when I get triggered, it feels like everything is being served to me at once. And I'm learning how to just take what's the first layer here and what just needs my love in this moment. What's the pain that needs my love right now? Not all the pain, but one by one. Really difficult, difficult. Yeah.
And while you were, at that max capacity, I could really feel that. I was sharing, and what was being reflected back from you was, she doesn't have space for this, so why are you sharing? Like, it was a great lesson into feel into the person that I'm sharing this with, and do they actually have space for what it is that you're trying to talk about and express? And then ultimately, can I get that from myself? And in those moments when I was sharing and it was too much, like, why didn't you speak up about it? Or maybe you did.
I really didn't. I think in my energy, I was like, this is all I can give you right now, is I'm just going to sit here and listen, but there's nothing else I can give. But that's also a part of me that's still powerless, that I still have trouble speaking what it is that I feel, or what it is that I need for myself in that moment. And because you show up so selflessly, so much for me, I'm always in this place of like, I owe you, and like, I should be there for you, and like, I should suck it up, instead of honoring, like, Ellie, there is no space right now. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, he's powerful enough to like hear that and go, okay, great. I can go do this on my own for sure. But that's being reflected of like where I'm still very weak.
And if I'm not, like, if in that situation, because there was moments this past couple of months where that reflection, I wasn't powerful enough to feel that. And that's what I had to go do, because it's so beautiful without you kind of hitting that max capacity. That's that like saturation of all your programs and wounds being kind of activated in this past couple of months. Like, you being at that max capacity and having no room for me allowed me to see where I was still not whole. Like, where this part of me, obviously there's many parts of me that still aren't whole, but this particular part of me, this oversharing, was like, oh, okay, now that you've hit that, I can see this is something that I'm not only now, but I've constantly been putting onto this partnership that we have. And that's not coming from a place of power, and that's not coming from a place of love, coming from a place of lack and neediness. Like, I need you to be able to process my pain. And I never want to do that, because then that's creating unrealistic expectations. And I see now that when you didn't give me those moments, I could feel the resentment in me building up. And it's like, I never want to resent you for that, of course. And deep down, like, why is it that I feel this way? And obviously it goes back to childhood of like not having anyone to process these emotions with. And now I finally did. It's like I just attach onto it, and ultimately getting to the place of healing beyond that, and learning how to be more independent in an amazing relationship.
It's so interesting because I also never had anyone to process any of my emotions, but I went the opposite way of you. I don't share anything and I internalize everything.
Yeah.
And you always ask me like, what's going on? What's coming up? And I'm like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
I just feel depressed.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I don't know. And I'm like, oh.
I'm like, share with me.
Yeah. And it's so hard for me to share. And that's what this whole last season has shown me, how much unprocessed, internalized pain I have, because every single time I went through, and this was like very consistent for me, where I was going through some kind of traumatic experience, right? I just went into my own cave in my room as young as I can remember and just cried. And nobody ever came to comfort me or talk to me or let me know it's going to be okay or I'm sorry or anything. And so I have built that wall up for 35 years. And so it's really painful to feel how much my inner child is afraid to even express what she's feeling. That's really hard. And it makes me really sad for her. But that's the beauty of this work, right? Is that we get to now show up for our inner child and be like, hey, I'm right here. What's going on? But man, the resistance that she has of I squirm when I drop in. I literally feel her squirming because she doesn't know what it means to be open and express and share and say, this is what I feel. And can you be here with me as I process this? And so I've had to learn the hard way that I need to show up as a leader for her, because when she's squirming, I give in to the squirming and go, yeah, okay, you know what? Let's just avoid, you know what? Let's just like resist. Let's just not go into this. And in that moment, what I actually need to be is, hey, I know this is uncomfortable and that's okay. I'm right here with you. You can squirm all you want, but I'm still here as a consistent, powerful figure for you to move through this. But my weakness just allows her to keep squirming, and which keeps her stuck in all of the pain and not allow her to like step into like really feeling what it is that's actually going on. So what I've been doing my inner child now is like, hey, what's in me is what is within you. And I know this is really hard, and I know you want to avoid, and I know you want to go in your cave, and I know you want to cry, and I know you want to hide under your covers, but feel this with me. We can do this together. And I can feel that's what she needs from me. That's what she's always needed from me. But because I've showed up so much, like I'm also afraid and I'm also scared and I also can't handle this, she and I stay stuck in this place. And now showing up for her as a leader has been a whole other journey that I started walking recently.
Keep talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have really just been depressed my whole life. And I know that depression is a program and an easy one to say, because it's when you're depressed, you can just stay in that and you don't have to address anything that's underneath that. And so a lot of that terror and that fear and that insecurity and that powerlessness has been showing up full throttle. And I'm forced to face it every morning. Every morning, as soon as I wake up, I'm in full blown terror. I'm in full blown fear. And I just have a choice every morning on what am I going to do with all of this that's being presented to me. And it has been extremely fascinating and also extremely painful to go through it every single morning. And some mornings I lose. I give into all the programs. Like, it is so wild to hear my mind saying things like, nothing's working, you suck at this, you're never going to heal, this is too much for you, you can't handle this, dip out, leave this, like just like do something else to not feel any of this. And moving through all of that and learning how to just be with all of that, and then getting to a place where I'm completely in surrender, and then I feel so powerful, and I'm like, this is what it means to just like overcome resistance with the power of surrender, and then experiencing that, and then falling back to, wait, what happened to that moment? I want to go back to that moment, and chasing after that, which means a whole other group of programs get activated, because now I'm again in resistance to what is, and I'm not in surrender to this whole other group of programs, because I'm constantly chasing after that high that I just got, where I was like so peaceful and so powerful. And then this morning, I woke up and I was feeling great. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not in fear and I'm not in terror. And then immediately I heard my mind saying, yeah, but you know, this isn't the truth. You know that like there's so many other things to be depressed about. You know that your life actually sucks. You know that like what you're going to enter into is just the doom and the dread. And then as soon as those mental programs started playing, immediately what followed were the emotional programs. And then I went from, oh my God, I feel great and peaceful, to, oh my God, I want to die. Oh my God, my life is so depressing. Oh my God, everything is horrible. Oh my God, there's no reason to live. And I was observing how quickly that happened. And I realized, you are still so attached to your pain. All I know is how to be in suffering. All I know is that most of the time I am depressed, I am in sadness, I am in anxiety, I am in all these things. So the moment that I actually feel any kind of peace or love or flow, it comes in and goes, this is not the truth. And so then I had a choice in that moment to observe all the programs that were here, and to go, oh, I see what's going on here. Let me just open my heart and not resist all these things, and not tell these programs like, no, this is not, I know what you're doing. Like, that's still fighting against all of it. So this morning I just went straight back into my heart and I said, all right, I see it for all of it, all that it is. I understand and see that I'm still attached to all of this, and that's okay. This is beautiful for me to see and witness in real time. And so I just allowed what was to be, and I wasn't fighting any of it. It was just good for me to see how attached I still am to the pain.
Yeah, I had a moment last year, a couple months into this work, where I just decided one day, I was like, I'm just going to see what happens if I can just keep opening my heart open and open and open. And I was trying to go as deep in as I could. And I really, it was not coming from a place of force. I was just opening. And I arrived at this amazing place, and I probably spoke about on this podcast before, but of unconditional love. And it felt just like this warm, my heart felt so open. This warm blanket of love was just cradling me. And it was my first true experience of like what someone might call God to be, or the source, whatever word you want to insert there. But it was this amazing divine energy that was just so loving, and it was so nurturing, and it felt like it was just holding me and hugging me, and it was warm and so loving. And it lasted for not too long, a couple minutes or so. But then what happened was, every time after that, I would go in and I was expecting to get to that place. And then that was a whole new web of challenges, which opens up, because now our ego and our mind is attaching onto what we think it is to open our heart.
Right.
We think that opening our heart is this amazing, loving, warm experience. It can be. It can also be fully feeling our pain.
Right.
And there's a real easy trap that we can get stuck in here, of expecting ourselves to feel good when our heart is open. But an open heart can simply just mean feeling the depths of our pain, feeling the fear, feeling the terror, whatever it might be, the anxiety, the depression, and all of its emptiness. That's how mine really showed up. My depression was just numb and empty. And I had a moment last year when I woke up with just felt like full depression. And I dropped in and did the work. And within 20 minutes, it had a couple minutes, I started to feel it moving, and with about 20 minutes, it had kind of alchemized, and I got to go throughout my day. But that shift only comes from letting go of that expectation of what it is that we think opening our heart is.
Yeah. And I realize because the mental programs are so strong, because I'm in expectation of, well, when I drop in, it should be this explosive and I should have wings and I should be flying through Neverland and it should be amazing. And when it's not, my mental programs go, see,
Yeah.
it ain't working. You ain't doing nothing. This, and then because I'm so addicted to that, I think that's truth. Right. And so this work is about see what programs are running right now, because it is not truth. But because we're so attached to it, we believe it to be true. Right.
Yeah.
And so when I had this energetic experience of I am the way of surrender, I literally, I experienced what it meant to truly be in surrender. And it was so peaceful, and there was no noise. And I was like, holy crap. And then I had this moment, it was like, maybe it was 30 seconds where I felt my heart just open and just like light just streaming out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm healing. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it. And then the next morning to go back to where I was before all of that was so discouraging. And then in that moment, I realized the programs that were running were like even more excited because it could trick me deeper into nothing's actually happening and what you experienced was false. And like, this is actually truth. So it's like, that's why this journey is not like step by step by step and A plus B equals C and 1 plus 1. It's the ebb and flow of it, the lessons within the lessons, the journey within the journey.
Up and down, side to side.
And it really showed me like, just constantly be in surrender to what is, because what will be served to you on the daily will not look like what it looked like yesterday and the day before. And trust that as you open and you don't shame and you don't give into the resistance and the avoidance and all these things, you are doing the work by bringing love and patience and surrender and presence and unconditional love to what is going on right now.
Yeah, and that segues perfectly to another way that I started blocking my healing in this past couple months. Moving from going through this deeper pain I was getting, which we've recorded podcasts about, like going deeper into myself, feeling really inferior and really digging into the abandonment wounds that I've had since I was a kid. Just more layers were opening up. And over the last month, after I'd moved through that, okay, I need to do this on my own. Great. I kind of figured out, okay, this is how I do it. I was then, we've both been doing this past month, using food to escape what it is that we were actually feeling. And it hasn't been until about this past week, all month, I've been really avoiding. And I've been known that I was doing it. And I just didn't, I've been feeling so low, disconnected, uninspired. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that like I was kind of honoring these feelings and this energy that I was in. But then that was blocking my own healing. So I was using the energy that I was in and this low feeling to avoid going in and doing the work and making that shift of like, oh, I'm like following along on this low pathway, and that's a choice. And I actually have the skill to go in and heal that. I don't have to keep following. And these energies get activated in us. We get triggered and we start moving through these periods of our healing journey. And it can be really easy to slip into the shadow work and just stay in the shadow and not actually transform the energy. And I was in this place where I was like, yeah, I'm moving through a lower time, which was true. But then I was giving my power away to it. And I wasn't taking responsibility and actually, again, I was still doing this thing where I was like, I'm moving through it. And I just like, I'll alchemize this as I go, instead of actually taking the time and being responsible to sit down and truly feel to the depths what it is that I was experiencing. I had a friend come visit recently, And there was another lesson here where I was using my friend visiting as an excuse not to go in and feel what it was. Oh, I wanted it to be this way. I wanted her trip here to be amazing and for me to be fully present with her. The irony was, as I wasn't able to be fully present with my friend because I had so much going on underneath. And instead of being present with my pain and myself and doing the responsible thing, which would have been healing that would have allowed me to show up with true presence instead of offering what I could offer in that moment. If I would have just taken a few hours every day to sit down and feel what I was feeling and love myself, what I would have been able to offer to my friend would have been way higher. And it was a great lesson and one that hopefully I've learned now.
Yeah. The food thing has been really brutal for me. And I started intermittent fasting finally because I realized that I can't just change my diet or tell myself that I'm going to fast if I'm not working on the energy that's creating the reason why I keep reaching for food. And I realized food equates to comfort. For me, it's the way that I've always ran to food. I love food. And growing up, like we always had like different cereals and like different cakes and all of these things in the house. And every time I felt down, I could reach for a donut or I could reach for a bowl of cereal. And that was like my time to just like be with myself and like have pleasure and like feel really not feel anything else that's going on. And so I've carried that with me into adulthood. And now on my healing journey, it has been my go-to. And the excuse that my mind tells me is, well, you need food. You need food to survive.
Yeah.
No, Ellie, you're abusing food and you're using it as a coping mechanism and you're using it to avoid what's actually coming up. And so now that I'm in this place where I like make sure for 16 hours I am in fast mode, it allows me for the window that I am eating, like, what is the energy behind why you're reaching it? And that's not to say that I'm still not messing up. Like yesterday, I was like, okay, it's almost 6 p.m. Like I only have like 5 more minutes and like I ate some like whatever. And it was like, did you need to do that? Or were you doing that because you were avoiding something? And the truth was I was avoiding what was coming up. And that's the tricky part about all of this is like constantly coming back to like, what's the energy of, are you hungry right now? Or are you avoiding something? Are you hungry right now? Or are you trying to comfort yourself because you're not wanting to feel what's actually coming up? And I don't, the way that I abuse food, it's the way that I abuse myself. And it's not loving in any shape, way, or form. I want to look food as a way to nourish me and not to comfort me in times of need, because what comes after I eat is like a whole other thing that I don't want to feel all of that guilt and shame on top of everything that I felt right before I ate. So it's like, Ellie, why don't you just address and go into what it is before you reach for the fridge and the pantry and open it up and then put that thing in your mouth.
Yeah, it was what you described there as a beautiful example of how to use both the divine masculine and feminine energies, because it's the divine and the sacred feminine that really heals. Like masculine energy does not heal, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be used in the space of healing. So this is an example of, okay, I'm going to set some clear, single, focused energy on, I'm going to intermittent fast for these hours, which allows the stuff to come up that needs to be seen for then you can open what it is that's coming up during that time to actually heal. And I was just reading yesterday in Rachel Fiori's book, Mason's Way. I've normally got a copy around here somewhere, on the 80-20 kind of ratio of 80% of the time being in the feminine and just 20% of the time being in divine masculine. And most people think that it's more of a 50-50 mix. But if we're constantly in that drive mode, that single point focused masculine way, we're cutting off all this spaciousness that we can just be present. Like the way of presence is a much more feminine attribute where we can just, be. That's where I want to live my life, is like in the presence of now. I want to be in that feminine openness
Mm-hmm.
and use the masculine energy to bring in and get things done when it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to hear you doing, like, having that balance for healing with food.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've reached over the boiling point. You know, it's like, Ellie, how long are you going to keep doing this to yourself? You've done this for so long. It's like, it's now or never. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to slip up or mess up or all these things, but can I have grace for myself when I do and then get back on track? That's something that I'm really learning is how can you always say to me, this work that we do is just about cultivating more love for ourselves. And it's like, I can be so hard and I can be so mean and I can be so nasty to myself because it's all I've ever done to myself. And now in these moments, like, Ellie, how can you show up for more love even when you slip or when you fall or, you know, when you make a mistake, which is a whole other journey in itself. It's not easy, but the coming home journey was never supposed to be just like a nice little slide. It is really bumpy. And how can I love myself through every bump, through every road, through everything that I hit? And is it going to knock me down, or can I love myself as I help myself back up? And this whole chapter with food is really going to be a way that I can show up for myself really beautifully and heal a lot. Because man, it's such an easy place for me to hide.
Yeah, I mean, we all do, I think, to some degree, hide through our eating habits.
Yeah.
And the way that manifested in me, what I've really been working on is that this happened with my dog recently. I thought he peed inside. Turns out, I think it was a plant leaking or something along those lines. I told him off. I then felt shame for telling him off when I realized, well, first I felt shame for telling him off because he doesn't need to be told off. He doesn't need to be shouted at or for me to get angry, which is me projecting my own weakness and pain onto him. So I felt shame for that. And then because I was feeling this shame, I was like, oh, I'll go give him a treat. So I went and gave him a treat. And after I gave him the treat, I was like, why did I do that? Why did I give him the treat? And I realized because I thought it would make him feel better. And that this is the way that I treat myself. Yeah. So when I'm feeling crappy and there's maybe some shame or some other unsavory emotion that's bubbling beneath the surface, I give myself food so that I'm distracted, so I don't have to feel what it is that I'm feeling. And the way that really turned out in me is, so for anyone that's new to the podcast, when I was young, around 6 years old, my parents separated, my mom left, and that created a big abandonment wound in me. And as I would spend time with my mom on like a weekend, she would let me eat whatever I would want. She would let me go to the store, the candy shop before I went to a house, and I'd pick out whatever. I would eat pizza. And so I started associating good, happy, loving times where I get to be spending time with my mom again, with eating crap, eating junk food that's terrible for me. And so when I drop in, I've got a very, very young child that's making all of my decisions about diet whenever something comes up that I don't want to feel. So there are periods in my life, this isn't happening all the time to me, where I get very strict and I've got very disciplined eating habits. And then one thing goes wrong, or I go through a difficult time and the pendulum swings to the other side, and then I fall down this rabbit hole. And then I'm in this like, well, fuck it. I may as well just go big or go home. And I've already eaten a pizza. I may as well eat a tub of ice cream as well. And then I feel eventually, I feel really bad and the pendulum swings the other way. But seeing that, I'm realizing that, I'm trying to take this dog's pain away. And this is what I do to me. It was a wake up call. And just yesterday, I had eaten a full meal I felt really good, but there was this part of me that was like, everyone knows that part of them that's just picking at them for a little bit more, a little bit more dessert. Like, it's not a scoop of ice cream. It's like you have the scoop and you're like, okay, what next? You know, I think everything in moderation is great. Like especially with diet, like not restricting yourself. If you like are craving something, like have a piece of chocolate, like every now and again, have a piece of cake if you really want it. But what's the energy that you're coming at it from? And I could feel this part of me that was just wanting something more last night. And normally I would just kind of go, yeah, I'm just still hungry. And last night, oh yes, it wasn't even last night, it was yesterday. I was like, let me feel this. And I stopped, and man, it was just the vision I got was like a mole burrowing. And it just felt like something trying to get away and hide. This part of me, this part of my ego that was still holding on, it was like trying to scurry away and burrow and hide from me in the little nooks and crannies of my psyche. And I felt it and dropped in with it. And it didn't take too long. It was maybe like a 5 to 10 minute processing. And since doing that small little shift, it was like, oh, this is that energy that's been constantly driving, just trying to get me away, like trying to just block my healing, trying to just pull me out of alignment of my highest path.
Yeah.
And now that I see it, it's like so much easier because I know I can feel it and heal it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, eating food is a behavioral program. And so what are the programs that constantly block you from healing? It could be mental, emotional, whatever that stops you in your tracks, that doesn't allow you to feel the emotions and the pain that are coming up. Like, for example, I always like to post all of my social media videos by 8:30 a.m. Like, I just see that it helps with my algorithm, all this stuff, right? But 8:30 a.m. in the morning is when I'm like fully in the middle of like what I'm moving through every morning. And so this morning I'm like feeling all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, Ellie, it's 8:30. Like, you need to go and you need to go post. And I literally wrote down in my journal, see what programs you're running in your mind right now that are trying to keep you from not going and fully feeling all of this stuff. Because my mind is convincing me, well, that's more important than this. I can come back to this, right? And that's exactly what, if I went and I did the social media thing, the emotion, the pain would have gone away. And then I know the programs are like, yes, we did it. She avoided. And it's like, I can't keep living like this. So the moment I recognized that that's what I wanted me to do, I just dropped in and I just stayed with all of it. And I posted an hour later, and it's okay, Ellie. It's okay. Because I see it for what it is. It's these programs don't want to die. They have their own consciousness, and they don't want you to really connect with your heart and your light and your power. And so constantly asking yourself, what programs am I running right now that are blocking me from going in and feeling what is coming up?
I have a similar thing with social media where if I don't do it around the certain time, it's like I missed my chance.
Right.
And then it's avoiding doing it. And why am I avoiding doing it? Because I don't want to be responsible in that moment. I don't want to actually do what I'm being told to do. And this is the permissive parent part of me, of like, breeds entitlement. I only really want to do what I want to do, which is not mature, obviously. And this comes from having permissive parents, where permissive parent, this is something we go through in all of our coaching programs.
How are you parenting?
Is where the parent kind of creates a rule or a boundary, and then you break it, and there's no punishment, or not saying that punishment, but no consequence for your actions. That's the word I'm looking for. So because of that, it breeds a child. If someone's like, don't do this, then you do it. And they're like, don't do that next time. And there's no structure there. The kid learns, oh, I can get away with whatever I want. And that's what happens now when I'm trying to parent. Mystical parent is what we do at MSU. Trying to mystically parent my inner child is I'm trying to teach him that he does have to do things when he doesn't want to do them, and that's okay. He's allowed to have all of those emotions, everything that he feels, but there are certain things that need to get done. And if I only do what I want to do in the moment, I'm not going to have a very clean house. I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm not going to post on social media, which is something that I struggled with in the past month. And there's going to be, you know, a whole host of things. If we only do what we want to do, we're not going to be living in the ways of oneness. We're not going to be reaching areas of our divinity, and we're not going to be going into our pain, because most people do not want to go into their pain. That's one of the programs that's going to block an individual from actually going in and doing the real work.
Yep. So the crux of this work, what programs are you running?
Yeah.
Constantly. Self-awareness is the number one step into healing. Without it, you ain't got nothing.
Yeah, the way all the work that we teach and everything we talk about, it's based off two major tenets, which is, you know, what programs are you running, and grow your light and heal it. And every time we go around that, that's the two things that it's looking at is building self-awareness and then creating more power. And the more power that we create by actually loving our pain, the more ability we have to see what it is that's actually hiding in our blind spots. Yeah. So there's a beautiful dynamic process that goes on through everything that we offer at Masters of Self University and through all of our coaching programs and the classes we offer, that allows an individual to gain more power through the healing, but also gain a deeper understanding of why they're showing up the way they are in self-awareness. And those two compound on each other. And I was stuck for a long time at just looking at the self-awareness piece and just reading all of the books, listening to all of the teachers, but all of that is just accumulated knowledge. It's not until we actually do the healing work and grow in our power that we start to embody the wisdom and understand truly what all that knowledge means. So I would encourage anyone who's at home who's interested. We have a live membership that we jump on twice weekly as the coaches.
Twice monthly.
Thank you. With Rachel Fiori. We have a Discord community. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a link below. Yeah. And we have a whole host of coaching programs. Yeah. And if you're interested, schedule a free consultation and we can move forward from there. And before we wrap this up, anything else you want to add?
No, go into your pain, y'all. What we're being asked to become, who we're meant to become. We're living in extremely crucial times right now. And we are all divine light. And the more of us that wake up and really do the work, the more love gets spread on this planet. And that's what many of us are here to do. And so I salute you. I honor you. I know how hard it is, but we are all here doing this together because we are one. And yeah, it's an incredible journey, but man, is it hard. It ain't easy. And so I just honor all of you. For everybody at home, please like, share, subscribe, whatever you got to do to get this podcast out, do it. Set up a free consultation with us at masterofselfuniversity.com. And until next time, we will see you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.